Both sides were trying to forget FA Cup disappointments, and in that respect, Wednesday were first off the mark. David Hirst's beautifully angled drive for his third goal in consecutive games since returning from injury. Goal of the day, Contender A. In the league, United have only been averaging a goal a game since Boxing Day. Hardly championship form, and yet they remain championship favourites. Brian McClare's 20th of the season and United's fourth successive draw, penalty shootouts apart. Leeds going down for only the second time this season after a sequence of 16 games without a league defeat. Paul Bernard's extrasensory perception inside the 6-yard box in a first half in which Leeds were given a right old going over. Eric Cantona, the French international, who's on loan at Leeds for the time being, came off the bench in the second half for his first taste of English football. One run that almost produced something. Eric Cantona, the enfant terrible. A terrible result for Leeds, but to call it a shock result would be totally unfair to Oldham, who've tightened up at the back without abandoning their cavalier approach going forward. Fullback Andy Barlow, as hard as nails, and popping up in the most unexpected places. A bit like Stuart Pearce. Both goalkeepers, Grobbelaar in particular, had an outstanding afternoon. But Liverpool have now dropped 5 points in the last 2 games, which certainly eases the pressure the top 2 appear to be feeling at the moment. Grobbelaar from Peter Billing. As goalless draws go, it was all right, but it's funny how you expect more from Liverpool, even when they've got 6 internationals out through injury. Steve Ogrizovic, one-time understudy at Anfield, had to earn his corners well, but some of Liverpool's best players are due back soon. It's not too late, and what an enthralling run-in it would be if the gap were to close. Another little gem from Michael Lake's repertoire of fancy goals against the club his brother Paul hasn't played for since damaging cruciate ligament 17 months ago. But Sheffield United are the team of the moment. 6 wins in 7 games and 21 goals in the process. Number 2 was a bit scrappy by their standards. Brian Gale against one of his former clubs. Well, like their neighbours at the top, Manchester City had only been averaging a goal a game since around the turn of the year, despite only 1 defeat in 16 league games. Neil Pointon was the player mugged in the box. Keith Curle's penalty for 2-1. United back with a 2-goal cushion just before half-time. Another untidy goal to concede from City's point of view. Brian Deane takes the credit for a spot of knee-high opportunism. Well, just after the break, Neil Pointon off on a real Stuart Pearce-like break down the left and setting up goal of the day contender B for City's other fullback, Andy Hill. An eventful afternoon for City's back 4. Well, Sheffield United now have the worst defensive record in Division 1, but they won't worry too much about that if they continue scoring at this rate. Dean to Whitehouse for goal number 4 and goal of the day contender C. Aston Villa rediscovered their scoring touch in midweek and lost it again. A much-needed win for Wimbledon, though, with John Fashanu putting them in front. The Dons winning for the first time in 10 games. Tony Daly not as quick on defensive runs as he is going forward, allowing Terry Phelan to arrive on cue to seal it with 9 minutes to go. Maybe the Mark Bright-David White partnership will prove as successful as Bright and Wright. Signs here they're on the same wavelength. Cute touch by Bright for young David White's second goal of the week. Only 1 win in 11 now for Palace, with Chelsea hitting back with only 4 minutes left. A little bit of sorcery from Dennis Wise. A quick game of pinball. Tony Cascarino scoring on his debut for Chelsea. Well, it had to come sometime. Arsenal are much too good to remain in the doldrums for long. Only their 4th goal in 9 games, Alan Smith making the most of a defensive mix-up. Luton off the bottom with their first win of the year. Norwich aren't travelling too well at the moment and have lost their last 5 games away from home. Little David Preece buzzing purposefully, Mark Bowen all of a tizzy. Nice finish, contender D. David Pleat was telling me last week that his team are their own worst enemies at times, that going in front is almost the kiss of death. But not on this occasion. Mick Harford wrapped it up shortly before the end.